Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this community meeting to discuss the Calistoga Road Pavement Rehabilitation and Utility Improvement Project. My name is Stephen Brown. I'm with the City of Santa Rosa, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. As members of the public join the meeting, you will be participating as an attendee. Your microphone will be muted, and your camera will be turned off. Only today's presenters will be seen during the meeting. The City of Santa Rosa is committed to creating a safe and inclusive environment free from disruption. We will not tolerate hateful speech or disruptive behavior, and we will monitor participation accordingly. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website, calistogaroadproject.com, within a few days after the meeting. At the end of the presentation, we will open the meeting for public questions and comments. I will now pass it to Peter Parada to provide a brief overview of this project.
Thank you, Steve. Tonight, we'll begin with introductions, then briefly go over the purpose and scope of this project, talk about upcoming construction activities, and review what residents and businesses can expect during construction. We'll wrap things up with your questions and comments. At this time, I would like to introduce tonight's presenters and panelists. I'm Peter Parada with the City of Santa Rosa's Transportation and Public Works Department and the project manager for the Calistoga Road project. I'll start us off with a brief overview of the project and its scope of work. You've already met Steve Brown, who is hosting tonight's meeting. Next, construction manager Mike Janet with DCCM will walk through the construction activities and talk about potential impacts to residents and businesses. We'll also be joined by two subject matter experts who will serve as panelists during the Q&A portion, including Mike Van Mitty, Acting Deputy Director for Traffic Engineering with the City of Santa Rosa's Transportation and Public Works Department, and Neil Bregman, Emergency Preparedness Manager with the City of Santa Rosa's Fire Department. This project focuses on improving approximately 1.1 miles of Calistoga Road between Montecito Boulevard and Highway 12, a heavily traveled corridor in need of significant pavement and utility improvements. Construction began on Monday, June 8th, and is estimated to be completed in August of 2027. During this first week of work, the contractor focused on getting set up and mobilized out on site. They also started potholing activity along the corridor to prepare for the upcoming sewer and water pipeline work. Potholing is basically digging small targeted holes to locate and confirm where existing utilities are. It's a standard first step that helps crews plan the larger pipeline work safely and avoid conflicts. At this stage, the impacts to the public are usually pretty minimal. The construction cost for this project is estimated at $12.7 million and is funded in part through California's SB1 Road Repair and Accountability Act, which was created to support local road rehabilitation projects like this one. As I mentioned, this project will improve Calistoga Road from Montecito Boulevard to Highway 12, with a focus on making the corridor safer and more functional for everyone, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. To do this, the project will use a method called full depth reclamation, or FDR, for the vehicle travel lanes and center lane. This method of paving is a cost-effective and sustainable way to rebuild a deteriorating road from the ground up. For the parking and bike lanes, crews will use a mill and fill approach, which focuses on milling or removing the top few inches of pavement, then filling or resurfacing the top layer with new pavement. The project also includes upgrades to bike lanes. From Merritt Drive to San Luis Avenue, there will be buffered bike lanes, and from San Luis Avenue to Montecito Boulevard, the buffered bike lanes will be separated with bollards. Pedestrian curb ramps along the corridor will be upgraded to meet current ADA standards. We'll also be improving bus stop infrastructure along Calistoga Road. And in addition to the roadway work, this project includes significant water and sewer system improvements along the corridor. This map shows the full project area along Calistoga Road. The project corridor runs from Montecito Boulevard to the north end to Highway 12 on the south end. and will include additional sewer work along DuPont Drive. Work will take place along the roadway itself, including adjacent sidewalks, curb ramps, underground utilities, and intersections throughout the corridor. Construction will occur in phases to help manage traffic and reduce disruptions to residents and businesses as much as possible. With that, I'll now hand it over to Mike Janet, who will walk you through the construction phases and activities in more detail.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everybody. This slide provides a high-level overview of how construction will be sequenced. The project begins with mobilization, setting up the work zone, establishing traffic control, and staging equipment and materials. As Peter mentioned, the official start date of the project was June 8th, so you may have already started to see some activity along the corridor. From here, crews will move into underground utility work, which includes water pipe replacement and sewer pipe improvements that Peter described. Once underground work is complete in a given segment, we'll transition to pedestrian curb ramp replacements and curb and gutter work. As Peter mentioned, FDR will be used on the main travel lanes and the center turn lane, the section of Calistoga Road that have experienced the most significant pavement deterioration. Rather than paving over the failed surface, FDR grinds up the damaged asphalt along the portion of the underlaying base material, blends it with strong uniform base layer, regrades and compacts the surface, and then tops it with new asphalt. Because we're recycling and reusing the existing material on site, there is less hauling in and out. This helps keep costs down and reduces the environmental impact of the project. It also addresses the root cause of pavement failure, which means a longer lasting road for the community. For the bike and parking lanes, which have not deteriorated as severely, we'll use the mill and fill approach, removing the damaged top layer of asphalt and replacing it with a fresh layer of hot mix asphalt. Final work will include a buffered and protected bike lane, bus stop improvements, road striping, and project closeout. Some of the phases may overlap in different sections of the corridor to keep the project moving efficiently. Here you can see the FDR process in action. The reclaimer grinds the existing asphalt and a portion of the base material together, creating a blended layer that is regraded, compacted, and paved with the new asphalt. This shows the mill and fill process that will be used on the bike and parking lanes. The milling machine removes the deteriorated top layer of asphalt and a fresh layer of hot mix asphalt is applied in its place. This slide shows the underground utility work that will take place early in the project. Crews will replace and upsize the current approximately 7,629 linear feet of water pipe and replace approximately 825 linear feet of sewer pipe before paving begins. Raising iron refers to the raising of utility covers such as maintenance hole frames and valve boxes to match the new finished roadway surface after paving. We understand that it may look like the new road is being damaged by this work, but is a critical step to ensure all infrastructure is flush and functional before the roadway is open to the public. Pedestrian curb ramps will be upgraded throughout the corridor to meet current ADA standards. These improvements make crossing safer and easier to use for everybody. The upgraded ramps provide a gradual transition from the sidewalk to the street for people using wheelchairs, strollers, and mobility devices, which, while the truncated domes shown here help people who are visually impaired detect the edge of the roadway and navigate more safely. The final phase includes installation of buffered and protected bike lanes, road striping, signage, and any remaining bus stop improvements. This is also when the green painted bollard protected lanes between San Luis Avenue and Montecito Boulevard will be installed. Construction began June 8th with an estimated completion date of August 2027, which gives us approximately 320 working days to complete the project. Work will generally occur Monday through Friday, with holidays observed. Typical working hours are 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. During those hours, traffic control measures and lane closures may be in effect. There may be situations where lane closures extend beyond 5:30 depending on weather conditions and where we are at with the paving operation. When this happens, we'll do our best to provide advance notice through our weekly newsletter and our project website. The website address or URL is provided at the bottom of each slide on this presentation and will be provided on the slide at the end of the presentation. Our goal is always to minimize disruptions while maintaining a safe and efficient work zone. I want to start by emphasizing that emergency access and egress will be maintained at all times throughout the project. We are coordinating with emergency services to ensure that they have full access through the project area every day. There will be temporary lane and road closures as construction moves throughout different segments of the corridor. We will provide advance notice to these closures through weekly email updates, the project website, and the ongoing site signage. Street parking will be restricted in active work zones. No parking signs will be posted at least 72 hours in advance to give residents and visitors time to make other arrangements. Our goal is to keep disruptions as predictable and manageable as possible. For activities such as deliveries, trash service, and mail, we will coordinate closely with the service providers to maintain regular service throughout the construction. Crews will also perform regular street sweeping to keep the area clean and minimize dust and gravel impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Access to driveways and adjacent properties will be maintained throughout the project. There may be brief delays when the work is occurring directly in front of a property or an intersection. Traffic control, detours, and flaggers will be in place as needed to guide you safely throughout the work area. We ask that everybody please drive with care and in and around the work zone. We also recommend signing up for our weekly email updates so that you always know what to expect in your area. Instructions for signing up will be provided on the next slide. If you have any concerns or encounter any issues during construction, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact the project team by email at info@calistogaroadproject.com or visit the project website at calistogaroadproject.com. You can sign up for the weekly construction update newsletter on the project website or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Additionally, you can reach out to our project team for more information by calling the project information line at 707-387-4031. I'll now turn it back to Steve.
Thank you, Mike. We'd now like to open this meeting for your questions and comments. If you'd like to ask a question or share a comment, please raise your hand in Zoom. For those joining us by telephone today, you could dial *9 and that will raise your hand. I will call on participants one by one, unmute your microphone so you can speak, and our panel will do their best to answer your question. Once you've asked your question, your hand will be lowered and your microphone will be muted again. So we are going to start today with Ray Madison. Ray, your microphone should be unmuted and you should be able to ask your question or make your comment. And Ray, it appears that you're still muted. Okay, Ray, you might have two machines on at the same time. They're creating a feedback loop. I'm going to come back to you, Ray. So if you could try to get that figured out, that would be great. Our next person on our list is Ted. Ted, your microphone should be unmuted and you should be able to ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. I was wondering, since the roadway is going to be open Is there an opportunity for PG&E or other utilities to underground their utilities during that construction area at this time?
Hi, Ted. Thanks for your question. So w- we don't expect any undergrounding to happen. PG&E will be out there lowering their existing utilities in the road, but they have not made any comment on undergrounding above ground utilities at this time.
It's too bad. Thank you, though.
All right, our next person on our list is Beth C. Beth, your microphone should be open at this point. You should be able to ask your question.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the weekly newsletter. Will it say when you're going to be doing asphalt? I'm terribly allergic and have asthma, and I don't want to be caught unawares.
Hi, Beth. Yeah, thanks for your question. That should be in the weekly updates in the newsletter. So you should be aware when we'll be paving. And we'll try to get it out before it's occurring, obviously. And Mike, Janet, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
No, we should know prior to paving well in advance. So everything should be outlined clearly in the newsletter to any big paving operations. They have to be planned well in advance.
Great, thanks.
Of course.
Okay, the next person in our list is Mike Cook. Mike, your microphone should be unmuted and you should be able to talk at this point.
Hi, I have actually two questions. Well, one has already been asked about PG&E, and I just wonder why that wasn't considered about undergrounding their electrical lines.
hey, Steve, thanks for the question. I don't know if we can really comment on that. That's more of a PG&E thing than
But I
than
mean,
a
if you
city
knew
thing.
this project was happening, then couldn't you have notified PG&E?
Well, we notified them when we realized their underground utilities were going to be a problem, so they were aware of it, and they didn't make any mention to underground their above ground utilities. And we don't really have any say over the work they do. So
And my next question is about the upcoming closure of the DuPont Calistoga Road intersection. And I was just wondering, I live on the west side along DuPont. Will that be completely closed, or will we still have access to get onto Calistoga Road?
we'll shoot that over to Mike Janet or Mike Van Mitty, whichever one you guys want.
You're on the west side, so I believe, Mike, that you should still have access. The detour would be on the east side of the road, because that's where the majority of the pipeline work is happening.
Thank you.
Next person with a comment or question is E. Crane. E. Crane, you should be able to speak at this point.
Hi, my name is Liz Crane, and I live also in the neighborhood where Mike Cook lives, to the west of Calistoga Road. And I've got two kids who go to Sequoia Elementary, and we walk across Calistoga all the time. And I know, in talking with the crossing guard, one of our big questions is, what's it going to look like when school starts in August? How far along will the project be, and how will it impact us walking across the street there to Sequoia?
Thanks for the question, Liz. Um, so we're going to start with the underground water and sewer directly in front of the school to try to get that knocked out before school is back in session. That being said, there will still be paving activities following after that while school is in session. Maybe I'll kick it over to Mike to see if he can add any more details.
Hi, Liz. Yeah, so we'll always have crossing available, safe crossing available there, unless we're directly in that crosswalk there, but we'll provide an alternate route for safe passage over to the school. We'll also be very cognizant of working hours versus when school is beginning and ending, so to make sure that we're not creating a hazardous situation there for students. We've talked to our contractor about that already, but we're quite a ways off on that, but we'll continue to talk to them about making sure that we always have safe passage for the kids.
Great. Thanks.
Of course.
Okay, our next person with a question or comment is listed as Brian and Meg. Brian and Meg, you should be able to ask your question or make your comment now.
Thank you. Thanks for having this meeting today. Really appreciate the detail. My question is, will there be any disruption in power or phone lines or gas during the project? And just want to make sure we mitigate that. What comes to mind is the potential power shutoffs during the red flag warning we're experiencing now. And just wondering if within this project there might be some expectations around utilities being compromised.
Thanks for the question, Brian. So PG&E will be doing work. We don't have any gas work, obviously, but PG&E will be lowering some of their gas lines, and we're working closely with them to monitor that, and we'll get some notifications out, and I'll hand it over to Neil to maybe add some.
Thank you. Thank you. I will assure you that we are in constant contact with PG&E, and to the extent there is a PSPS, although luckily they're a little more rare than they used to be, we would work with the contractors and PG&E to make sure that utilities were restored or whatever needed to be done to make sure you were notified and knew about that, as well as if we needed to, in the middle of that, do an evacuation, that you were well aware and prepared, and we had all the information for you needed in multiple ways.
Maybe a quick follow-up on that. Is there, in terms of like the phone, we have Wi-Fi coming through here, that sort of thing. Any disruption on the AT&T lines or any of that sort of stuff as well when they are digging?
There should be no disruption to that, Brian.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next person with a comment or question is Michelle Davis. Michelle, you should be able to ask your question at this point.
Hi, thanks for doing this. My question is regarding fire evacuations. So I also am off of DuPont on the west side, where we actually only have two ways to get out of our neighborhood. In particular, the last evacuation, it was mayhem trying to get out onto Calistoga Road. I'm wondering if they've thought of how they're going to handle a possible fire evacuation should this occur with, potentially less lanes available on Calistoga Road, or perhaps having police to do traffic control.
So I'll speak first. Hi, this is Neil Bregman, and then Mike, if you want to talk about kind of anything else we have over there that might mitigate it from the standpoint of fire and police. Again, in a red flag warning, especially one of the ones that are the higher fire danger ones, we would be in communication with the contractor, and work would be stopped as much as possible, and all lanes that can be opened would be opened. And I agree with you that in the event that we need to begin evacuations, it is our intention to, as quickly as possible, get a first responder or someone from the city there to help direct traffic, because we recognize that there is an issue there and we will work on it. We also will make sure, if possible, that we phase zones and make sure that the ones like yours, if they're the first in the oncoming potential fire, to get you out first. Moreover, if we do an evacuation warning first, rather than an order, warning means get ready. It could be coming. Order is go now. I would suggest, given that traffic problem, whether or not we're there to mitigate it or not, that warning would probably be better for your neighborhood to get going. This way you have extra time in case something does turn into an order, you're already on the go. And with that, I'll turn over to Mike if there's anything else kind of around streets and traffic that might be covered there.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, and thanks, Michelle, for the question. And we actually several years ago had a similar project on Fulton Road on the west side of town, and the contractor was actually the first, I'll say, responsible party that was there and helped facilitate an evacuation on a segment of roadway that was actually closed for construction at the time. And so I know the contractor, while not present at this meeting, is a major player and a partner in this. And they will help facilitate, and whether it's the contractor, the police, the city's public works department, we will make sure that the residents are evacuated if need be. So thank you for the question. And we will make sure that there are no closures or anything else that prevents an evacuation.
Okay, the next person in our list is Susan Keller. Susan, your microphone should be open. You should be able to ask your question or make your comment.
Hello.
Okay, same thing, Susan, as with Ray. If you have two devices operating at the same time in the same area, you're going to create a feedback loop. So if you could turn one of those devices off, I can come back to you in just a moment. We'll go ahead and we'll move to Mike Cook. Mike, your microphone should be open and you should be able to speak at this point.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the question that was asked about getting kids to Sequoia from the west side of Calistoga Road. The current situation with the road is pretty dangerous. I know the crossing guards that the school has have had many close encounters with vehicles, and I just wonder if there has been any consideration to like have bulb outs or something that would shorten the distance for families to cross Calistoga Road. I did see that you're doing the accessible ramp improvements, but are there any curb improvements or bulb out improvements being considered?
Thanks for the question, Mike. I might hand this over to Mike Van Middy if you have anything to.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for the question, and thanks, Peter. So one of the restrictions that we had is in this area, there's also bus stops. I'm sure you're aware, both running north and south. And so because of that, we couldn't do any changes in the curb location to physically make the crossing shorter. However, we have done some striping changes. In addition, I know one of the issues was the skew in the crosswalk that's on the north side, the existing crosswalk that's on the north side of Calistoga Crossing DuPont. And so we did realign that crossing so that it's more direct across east-west instead of being at the angle that it is currently. That should help with some of the compliance issues that we've seen with cars that are stopping into the crosswalk. In addition to that, on the frontage in the school, we're going to actually do what's called a cycle track, which is a two-way protected bike lane. So the area adjacent to the east side of Calistoga, right there in front of the school, will no longer be parking. That will allow for essentially an area for bicycles. And also it's the bus stop's just short of that, just north of the intersection. And so because of that, there's going to be essentially an area where the normal driving public will be out of the area. So I think you'll see some improvements there. It should be good, much better than it is now.
So that looks like it's going to be a shorter distance just with the bollards and things like that you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try now to go back to Susan Keller. And Susan, we can try it again, see if your microphone works now without the feedback. Susan, you should be able to unmute and ask your question. Unfortunately, that problem is still persisting, Susan. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Mike Cook, who has raised his hand again. And Mike, you should be able to. I'm sorry. 1 second. Oh, it appears to Alan Hoff. Alan, you should be able to ask your question at this point. Okay, I'll come back to you, Alan, if you still want to ask your question, but I'll go back to Mike Cook at this point. Mike, do you have a follow-up question?
Sorry, I lowered my hand before you unmuted me. At the apartments that were just built at the corner of Calistoga and DuPont, where they did some new asphalt, is that being redone? And the reason I ask is that as you're heading south on Calistoga Road, there's like a loop-de-doop from the at the where they did pavement to where it's the old city pavement. Um, and I was wondering if that's going to get fixed.
Thanks for the question, Mike. That will remain. We don't plan to tear up what they just put in. So we'll stop right at the new pavement.
So will you lower it then? Lower the pavement the city's putting in so that there's not like a loop de doop down?
I don't think it might.
That doesn't seem like a very good situation.
Mike, are you saying there's a grade break there, like a hump?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, the new asphalt that we're putting in should flushly butt up to the existing asphalt that's out there. So we'll make every effort to make sure that this rides as smooth as possible. And I know our survey crews have taken the existing conditions into consideration with the design. So
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate if you guys look at that just because every day I drive on it. And I mean, it's not, I don't think it's dangerous, but it's kind of, obvious when you drive over it.
yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. I'm looking at it right now. I see where you're talking about.
All right, thank you, Mike. And I'm going to now go to Liz Crane again. Liz, you have another question?
Hi, thanks. I've got a couple of questions further related to Sequoia Elementary. One is when you're installing the bike lanes, paving right alongside the school, will there be any kind of fencing or protection of that area of the school? There's a upper grade classrooms, and then there's a garden actually that goes right up to the sidewalk along Calistoga. So I was wondering if there'd be any kind of protections from dust and everything of that garden area and of the school. All the HVAC equipment is right there too, so that could be a potential for like dust getting into the HVAC systems for Sequoia for those upper grade classrooms. And then just I was wondering if you had any like plans for just the traffic in the morning and the traffic in the afternoon for getting people in and out of Sequoia, or if there would be detours or any kind of planning with the school about that. Thanks.
Thanks for the question, Liz. I think I'll punt that over to Mike Janet.
Yeah, so Liz, just to be clear, like the contractor is responsible for dust control at all times. We don't necessarily have any barriers or anything like that set up, but the contractor is well aware that they need to keep dust to an absolute minimum. We're on top of them during this process. The asphalt itself won't create any dust. The FDR process could create some, but it's also all that equipment has dust mitigation built into it. So it's fairly it's minimalized. I'm not going to say there's none because I can't rightfully say that. But we do have all this is the latest and greatest equipment that we're using, and it's taken all that into consideration to minimize the impacts of the construction. Well, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question, Liz?
Regarding traffic.
Diverting traffic. Well, so I did want to say we're going to work with the school during paving. Again, we have some limited hours to make sure that we aren't affecting drop off and pickup from the school. So we'll be making sure that we coordinate with the school well in advance of the actual road reconstruction. Like you heard in our presentation, the pipeline work's going to take a good while, and then when we actually start shutting down portions of the roadway to traffic, we will make sure that it's fully coordinated and notifications go out, and the school's also in the loop and has input in how that looks.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and try Susan Keller again. Susan, let's see if you have your feedback problem solved. Susan, you should be able to unmute and ask your question at this point.
Yeah, it's on your button.
Oh, gosh, Susan, I'm so sorry. It appears that you still have that feedback loop. And again, it probably is coming from having two devices in the same room on the same meeting going at once, and it's creating a feedback loop. You could, of course, Susan, reach out to our panelists via email with your question or comment, and they could answer you that way if you would like. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Brian and Meg again. They appear to have a follow-up question.
Yeah, yeah. Hi. Kind of similar to the discussion around Sequoia Elementary. There is a ton of traffic around the beginning of school at Maria Carrillo High School. So I just wanted to just bring some awareness that that particular intersection also is heavily traveled early in the morning as kids get to school and when they leave. Just want to make sure that it's on everyone's radar to mitigate that. Maybe there's a, maybe the construction crew can take a break. I don't know. But just wanted to make sure that that was on the radar as well.
Thanks, Brian. I'll let Mike comment on that again if he has
Yeah,
to add.
Brian, we do have modified hours during that, the paving portion of construction and around the schools, and we're aware of it, but I do appreciate it. And if there's something that people see that could be better, by all means, reach out. We always welcome the public's input on ways we can even improve beyond what we are seeing on the project.
Hey, Peter, at this point, I do not see any further hands raised. Oh, as soon as I said that, of course, a couple go up. Our next person on the list is John Jackson. John, you should be able to unmute and ask your question or make your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay. I had a couple of questions. I live up off Piedmont Drive. One of the questions is that in that area of Piedmont, of Calistoga Road up in Piedmont, I see that you're removing the parking on either side of Calistoga Road in that area, which is unfortunate because it's one of the few places on the east side of Santa Rosa that a large commercial vehicle can be parked. And we often do see people parking them there for temporary purposes, logging trucks, heavy construction stuff. And I was wondering if there is a reason why you got rid of the parking for that, because it does create a problem for other drivers. But my other concern is that by the way you're moving the bike lanes in that area is going to make it difficult to get off of Piedmont onto Calistoga Road during the heavy traffic sessions, particularly in the mornings, what with the addition of the bollards and the movement of the bike lane. And have you calculated whether or not you can run the street sweepers down to clean up in that area after the bollards are installed? These are my concerns.
Thanks for the question, John. I'll send this over to Mike Van Mitty for some comments.
Yeah, John, great questions. If you're not a traffic engineer, you might have a feature in it. So I'll go backwards from your question. So the city actually has a what we call a mini street sweeper. It is very narrow. It's almost comically small, but it is specifically designed to clean the streets at locations where we do have very narrow protected bike lanes. Um, and essentially the entering traffic from the locations where there are the bollards. We have done essentially turning movement analysis to make sure that not just personal vehicles, but also the trash trucks that need to service your homes there on Piedmont are able to make those turns. Yes, they will be a little bit more difficult than it is now, but there should be no issues. Navigating the street without hitting those bollards for any of the vehicles that we would expect to go out there.
Well,
Oh,
if I could interrupt, you've done this already over on the west side of Santa Rosa, right? On North Dutton.
yes.
And I've driven over there a lot. I drive over there once a month for a doctor's appointment. And I've been doing that for over a decade. So I know exactly how that's played out. And what I've noticed is the introduction of the bollards has created a number of problems driving down, especially when you're turning off the main road onto the side road, because you've removed the California style, um, dotted line that allowed the driver to move over and block the bike lane before they make their turn. And as a consequence, you have to make a very sharp turn to get off the road, like off of Calistoga to get onto the side road. And I'm thinking that that's going to actually be when there's heavy traffic or even normal traffic, just like this afternoon, that's going to really slow down the traffic because people are going to have to slow down almost to a crawl to make that turn. Is there a reason why you got rid of those California stops or the
So
California lanes? You know
yeah,
what I'm
so
referring to?
you essentially answer the question with one of the words that you use there. We're trying to slow people down, and Calistoga Road is an arterial street. It carries
Mhm.
more than 12,000 vehicles a day, but those are the types of streets where people get hurt, and the preliminary or the main factor of when people are hurt in auto collisions is speed. And so the slower we can encourage people to go, the safer our streets become. And so by introducing things like bollards, by introducing some of the other, I'll say traffic calming measures that we've done in Santa Rosa, the intent, the goal, the explicit goal is to lower the speeds, and in doing so, to make our streets safer. So that is the stated goal. We hope that people go slow. And if anybody is going to hit anything, I would much rather it be a bollard than anyone within that bike lane. Um, uh, so it is an explicit goal to slow people down. That is explicitly why we are doing it. And then related to the parking again, I would much rather have accommodations for a protected bike lane than for any kind of trucking or uh, vehicles for sale or overnight cars, broken down cars, that sort of thing. As far as in that area where there aren't fronting homes, we're not doing that in the area to the south, from San Luis South, because there are fronting homes. We want to make sure that the parking is maintained in those areas.
Is the city expecting those people whose property does not front onto Calistoga Road to maintain the vegetation on that side?
Uh, John, that's a good question.
Because the bike lane is going to move over and you actually can't ride a bike right up beside the curb right now with the vegetation that's on the road. I know you put a few notes in your drawings to remove some vegetation, but I think you may find you're going to have to remove more.
Yeah, that's something we can take a look at.
Okay. And then just one final comment. I don't know if you're aware of this, but so coming south on Calistoga Road to Piedmont at night, it's very difficult to see Piedmont Drive. It's very poorly lit at the intersection, and someone actually went to the trouble of putting reflective tape on the brick wall that's located on the so I guess it's the southeast corner to help. Has there been any consideration of trying to improve the signage or the lighting or the markings to make it easier to see that turn at night?
I may hand this to Mike Van Midi or Mike Janet. You guys could.
Yeah, I'll start. Thank you, John. So I'm reviewing the street lighting now. It looks like there's a few streetlights within the vicinity. I will send somebody out there to make sure, one, that they're operating, and two, that they are appropriately sized for the intersection. Um, we are adding one streetlight at St. Louis, actually, which is another block away. But I wasn't anticipating to add a streetlight here. So we'll have to do some analysis and see if we can lighten it up using the existing poles. And that's a strategy that we've used at many other locations. So we usually get some pretty good results with that. So if you want to follow up
Okay.
with me later on that, I'll be happy to share with you the results.
And it may also be as simple as moving a sign because the reflective signs, work really well and don't require any lighting, right? Like if you have the sign for Piedmont be in such a location that it can be more easily seen when you're coming from the north than the way it is now. That might also be a simpler and cheaper solution.
Yeah, we could certainly take a look at that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next hand up is Mike Cook. Mike, you should be able to unmute and ask your question or make your comment.
All right, I'm done after this, I promise. So the previous speaker mentioned plans, and I was just wondering if the city has those that they can share. They're not on the website. I just went through the whole website for CalistogaRoadProject.com. And then my next question, so Mike mentioned that it's an explicit goal to slow down traffic along Calistoga Road. And I didn't see that on the website, CalistogaRoadProject.com, as an explicit goal. I saw safety as a goal, to make it safer for everyone, which probably means that you slow down traffic, but I didn't see it as an explicit goal to slow down vehicular traffic. And I would think that if we are looking to slow down vehicular traffic, the speed limit might be one way to do that. And then my last question, and then again, I'll be done. Is this construction of Calistoga Road at all planning to close the entirety of Calistoga Road, or will it always be access? And is there any night work?
Thanks for the questions, Mike. I can take the first one on the plans. So we have the Calistoga Road Project.com website, and then we also have a city website that I'm just realizing are not talking to each other essentially, or linked. So on our city website, we actually do have the plans posted, and we can work on getting that URL on the Calistoga Road Project.com website. So you'll have a link to the plans there. And then I don't.
Yeah, there is there's something up in the upper right hand corner. It says city website. I just thought that went to the general city website, so I didn't click it. But then I do see that when I click it, it does give you capital improvement project list, and then, but I still don't see a link for the actual plans. Oh, plans. Yep, there we go. Under correspondence. Got it.
Perfect. And then the other two, it looks like Mike Van Middy's can jump in on one of them.
Yeah, thanks, Peter, and thanks, Mike. So we could take a look at lowering the speed limit. Oftentimes it's we have to make the improvements. So we have to do the things that result in people driving slower before we lower the speed limit. If we just put up a new speed limit sign, it doesn't necessarily reflect that change condition that would require drivers to slow down. So once construction is complete, we'll certainly go back and evaluate the speeds of the cars as they're going through. And just to be clear, the explicit goal is safety, right? And that is mentioned, and that is done as it relates to crashes by lowering the speed. We also have some competing interests in that, people need to be able to get to and from where they're trying to go. There's, needs for evacuations, emergency services, trash pickup, and all those sorts of things. And so it certainly is a balance, but where we can, we do as much as we can to make designs and put designs out there that do lower the speeds.
I think there may have been one more, but I forgot what it was.
Okay, well, we'll move to another question from Brian and Meg. Your mic should be open now, Brian.
Oh, hello. So a question about, there's a crosswalk on Calistoga Road that's midway between Monteverde and I think San Luis Drive. That's kind of in an odd spot for crossing. I was wondering, and I apologize if this is in the plans and I didn't see it. Is there a plan to move that closer to a kind of high traffic or high foot traffic crossing area, which would be at Monteverde Drive, at the intersection of Calistoga and Monteverde Drive?
Thanks for the question, Meg. I'll hand this to Mike Janet.
I don't think that Mike Van Middy, I don't know if there's any movement of that crosswalk per se. I'm looking at the plans now. I don't see that it's moving. And maybe you can speak to if that's an option or not.
No, we did not intend to move the crosswalk there. Based on some community feedback, we are adding a new crosswalk at San Luis. But we're not going to install a crosswalk at Monteverde.
Okay, at this point, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So if you're still in the meeting, you happen to have a question or a comment for our panelists, please feel free to raise your hand. And we do have another person with the hand up. It is Gail Caudray. Gail, your mic should be open for you to ask your question or make your comment.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I missed the first couple of minutes. So I live on San Luis and I go out on Calistoga to go to work every day. So that road it will be open for traffic. They'll have certain lanes or something so that we can use that road. I didn't hear that part of it.
Thanks for the question, Gail. Are you talking about Calistoga Road? I think that was a yes. Mike, do you want to take that one? Mike Janet?
Yeah, Gail, Calistoga Road's going to continue to be open with some lane detours, but not road detours on the main section of Calistoga Road. While we're working right in front of your street, there may be a delay or a small detour getting out, but Calistoga Road's going to remain open throughout the process with shifted lanes to make sure that we keep the public safe away from the construction activities.
Fantastic, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, and Ray Madison. Ray, we'll try this again. Hopefully you've been able to get rid of the feedback loop. So if you want to go ahead and open your mic, you can ask your question or make a comment.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ray, but it sounds like we're still getting that feedback from you.
Okay, move this. Move this.
Mm. Okay, Ray, I apologize, but it's going to be not possible for our panelists to hear your question with that feedback. And I do want to remind folks that if you do have a question or a comment, you can, of course, write to our panelists. There will be a email address on the slide that I'll put up before the meeting ends, where you can write in and ask your question and have that addressed by someone on our panel today. I'm going to move back to John Jackson. John, your mic should be open at this point. You should be able to ask your question.
Hi, I'm just backing up on something that was said a few moments ago. It looks like from the drawings that a new crosswalk is being added at Monteverde Drive. So I assume it's just a crosswalk and not a light set of lights. Are you adding a set of lights with the new construction or the new crosswalk that's added up at San Luis?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Let me retract what I had said. There is a new crosswalk at Monteverde also. And apologies for misstating that earlier. It will be a lighted flashing beacon one, similar to what's there at Merritt now, towards the south end of the project. The crosswalk will be on the south side of Monteverde.
Right. Yes. Yes. I can see that on the plans.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, and we have a question or a comment from Beth C. Beth, you should be able to unmute your mic and ask your question, make a comment.
Thanks. For people who don't use email, got a lot of seniors, very old seniors. Is there a way, I know you said there's a hotline to call in. Does that give you a person to talk to, or is that a recording? And if it's a recording, does it have all of the information that the newsletter would have, or is it more high level?
Thanks for the question, Beth. The hotline is a person.
Okay.
We don't have any set up unless
Great.
Ryan wants to jump in, but
Yeah, I'll be the one answering the hotline if you call. If I'm not able to take it, it'll go to voicemail and just leave a message and I'll call you right back. And all of the newsletters that go out via email are also posted to the website. So all the information that goes out every week in the newsletter is posted on the website every week. If you have access to the website, then you'll be able to get access to those newsletters.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we've got people that just don't use the internet at all, so.
Yeah. Understood.
Thank you, Beth. And it appears that Mike Cook, you have another follow-up question. You should be able to ask it now.
I just wanted to follow up on the intersection of DuPont and Calistoga Road. And what I heard, and I just wanted to confirm, is that the Santa Rosa City bus is the reason that we were not given some bulb outs for the crosswalk.
thanks, Mike. Sorry, Peter, I'll take this. I don't want to say it was the sole reason. There's also drainage issues. There's a lot that goes into a design, so, which would be something that was not taken in this case. There's I couldn't go back and find all the reasons during this meeting, but I'd be happy to discuss with you offline, and feel free to send in a message, and we can follow up with you. But essentially, we do have to accommodate the transit stops.
Sure. Thank you. And the reason I asked is I see that Monteverde is getting a bulb out, and there's other bulb outs on the project, and so I I think bulb outs are one of the ways to make pedestrian crossings way more safe, and it's a slight disappointment that we didn't get that at DuPont. So I will reach out, Mike. I appreciate the offer.
Okay, at this point, there are no hands raised from our attendees. So we'll wait a few minutes to see if anyone else wants to ask a question or make a comment. Peter, at this point, I'm not seeing any hands go up from any of our attendees.
All right.
Oh,
Thanks, Steve.
and just as I
get
say
one?
that, once again, John Jackson appears to have another follow-up question. John, you should be able to ask your question now.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm looking at the plan, C503, which shows the bike lane, the double, what you call it is a double, bike lane that runs both ways, that starts at Monteverde and goes south from there. How is the traffic supposed to enter that bike lane from the north? Where is that sort of anticipated to be coming from to get on the east side of Calistoga Road heading south?
Thanks, John. So we anticipate that bicycle riders that are heading south, that are comfortable and already in the bike lane, will continue to remain on the west side where there is an existing bike lane. And for those of us that are not looking at the plans, apologize for not being showing those. However, if you are coming from the east side of Monteverde, you would be able to enter the we'll call it the two-way cycle track, and be able to be on that east side of Calistoga along the school frontage.
Okay.
Additionally, if people wanted to, they would be able to use the crosswalk at Monteverde to cross if they were on the west side of Calistoga. But we don't anticipate the typical bike riders that you see out there on Calistoga to do that. It's more for the school children.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well, though I must admit, the bike riders I do see on Calistoga Road are often going the wrong way in the bike lane. That's a typical behavior I do see these days. I see more people going the wrong way than going the right way. But
Terrific. Well, thank you. And again, I see no hands raised in our attendees screen. So again, if anyone has a question, you could raise your hand at this point or dial *9 if you're calling in. And Peter, it appears that we have no more questions from our attendees at the moment.
All right, thanks, Steve. I would like to express our appreciation and thanks to the members of the community for participating tonight. We greatly appreciate your time and your interest in this important project and all your comments and questions that you had tonight. I want to remind everyone that the project website is calistogaroad.com. You'll find project background, construction updates, FAQs, and more at that website. On the website, you can also subscribe to receive weekly email updates throughout construction, so you know what's coming up in your area. You can also send questions or requests to subscribe to the newsletter to info@calistogaroadproject.com. For project questions or concerns, you can reach the project team at our project information line, which is 707-387-4031. Additionally, crew members on site will have contact cards to provide the public, which include contact information for the project team. Tonight's presentations slides will be posted to the website within a few days, and a recording of this meeting will be posted shortly after. We'll leave the slides on the screen for a few minutes. Thank you again for joining, and I hope everyone has a great night.